Crypto Kids, you have a 24-hour warning because tomorrow we have the inflation data coming out, and it could be one that will surprise us, potentially like the data point that was released back in December of last year, where the consensus expectation was 3.1%, but we got 2.7% inflation. This time, there's an expectation of 2.5. I will break down to you what can happen looking at prior Bitcoin price history. And also, Bitcoin was able to reach 65.7, 65.5, like we said we would. If we would continue to the downside, we need to hold this level, because if we don't, then you're looking at the 62s. We will get into the macro analysis for Bitcoin. There is a new chart, or two new charts, that I want to share with you here today that unfortunately proves why Bitcoin will go to lower prices for a longer amount of time. I have no idea why there were balloons behind me, but yeah, we just had balloons. We'll go through the economy, we'll go through the jobs that were added in January and more, so stay tuned until the end. Guys, if you enjoy the content, make sure to subscribe to the Crypto Kid channel, where we're here every single day bringing you the best crypto updates in the industry every single day. Turn on the notification bell, because they're usually time sensitive, and destroy the like button if you end up enjoying the content by the time you finish it. With that said, let's jump over into the economy, and then we will make our way into inflation. So in January, America added 130,000 jobs, which is quite a lot. It is quite a lot. They added the jobs in the private sector too, 172,000 up in the private sector, down 42,000 in the government jobs, and the unemployment rate has come down too. This is what the bar graph of that data would be visualized as. And it's pretty good. You know, you're seeing native-born Americans get more jobs than foreign-born, which is what you want for a country's economic development. I'm not going to commentate on anything else, but if you want a country to flourish, usually you would have more native-born employment comparatively to foreign-born employment. This is good stuff, but we just need to understand that we're getting a lot of good jobs and many tens of thousands of more jobs than expected. But it's most likely due to seasonality, and when we go and see the FOMC in 34 days, Fed Chair Powell will likely state that, okay, we had these explosive jobs numbers in January, but it was most likely due to the seasonality. In the festive times, you tend to add more jobs. So in December, in November, and January, you tend to have more jobs than normal. So it's something that he will probably say. And if we want to get a rate cut, then we actually shouldn't be getting good jobs data under the current leadership of the Fed, because it just points towards why their current monetary policy stance is working and why they don't need to be cutting rates. There's a 92% chance that they do not cut rates in 34 days. If unemployment is reducing, there are more jobs, inflation will be a big tell tomorrow. But if inflation is also coming down to their near 2% targets, then why is it the case the Fed should be cutting rates? They're doing everything perfectly, right? Well, Kevin Hassett, the White House economic advisor, disagrees. He says that there's plenty of room for the Fed to cut rates. And he's right from a fiscal policy point of view. America has $38.7 trillion of national debt, of which $9.5 trillion needs to be refinanced this year. If they do not reduce rates, then they're going to pay hundreds of billions of dollars of extra in interest. And that's unnecessary. That's going to be unnecessary. The Fed, however, sadly doesn't look into fiscal policy. They're only focused on monetary policy. And what they're focused on, they're doing a good job at. So how can you blame the Fed for not cutting? We will see if Kevin Warsh will have a different opinion, whether if he will care about fiscal policy or not. But theoretically, the Fed does not need to be cutting rates. There could be an exception if inflation goes under 2%, which is unlikely. Then obviously you're falling below the target inflation of 2. So there will be risks to deflation, which is reducing prices for goods and services. And you don't want that because that's not going to lead to economic growth. 2% is where you want to be. If we see inflation data fall below 2%, then Bitcoin could jump. I mean, I think it's going to be volatile tomorrow regardless. I would be looking at the 72K level to be broken if we want to continue to 80K. That doesn't change. But if we see something below 2%, I don't think we will. But that could create a liftoff for Bitcoin, and that's what I'm looking for. There is a 79% chance, though, that the government will experience a shutdown this Saturday. It doesn't really impact price action. People get scared of it. We can see that the fear and greed indexes went back to extreme fear 5. Don't worry, the shutdown does not impact prices, but this is some of the lowest fear and greed I've seen in a very long time. I think it's a good time to be buying Bitcoin regardless of the expectation that we have, which Bitcoin will drop further. We can take a look at Fibonacci, and you can see that in the prior cycles, Bitcoin went a little bit below the 0.786. You went a little bit below the 0.786, and if we go to a little bit below the 0.786, you're talking about the 30Ks. I don't see that happening. Could I be wrong? I could be wrong. But can 49K happen? Can the 50Ks happen? I think there's a strong chance it will. I think the Dow is actually coming closer to a top. The Dow Jones operates in 4-year cycles. You can see early 2022 was the top for the Dow Jones. Early 2018 was the top for the Dow Jones, and then you went lower. If the stock market goes down, we know that's not good for the price of Bitcoin. Every cycle, you retest something called the realized price and the balanced price. The realized price is the green line. It's almost like a moving average. That is the average acquisition cost of people for their Bitcoin. And every cycle, Bitcoin in the bear market, it comes down and it retests the green line, and actually it finds the bottoming at something called the realized price, which looks at the average acquisition cost and incorporates the total spending of Bitcoins, looking at people that are holding their Bitcoin in their wallets and then going out and spending it. It's a very complicated mathematical formula, which I can't really explain, to be honest with you, in a simplified way. You'll just have to sort of trust me with this one. But every single cycle, we know the 4-year cyclicality exists. We know we're doing the same thing over and over again. And when we do look at the prior cycles, just like retesting the electrical costs, Bitcoin comes down to the green and the yellow line, and those lines are sitting at 40K and 55K. You know, I just wouldn't have any optimism at this point in time, and I would still be more. I would still be more cautious. I think that's the best way to put it, and hopefully by October/September of 2026, we find a low and we start moving back towards the upside. The world is very uncertain. We know that when uncertainty levels peak, it corresponds to financial crashes. In 2020, you had a lot of uncertainty with COVID. Markets crashed. You had a lot of uncertainty in around 2011, 2012, 2013 wasn't the best times. In the financial crisis of 2008, times were uncertain. So prices go down with uncertainty. Tensions are increasing in the Middle East. Again, this doesn't translate to optimistic markets. Guys, that wraps up today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for a video that I will be publishing later on tonight. I think you're going to enjoy it. It's about a crypto token that saw buying pressure from the largest institution in the world. I already dropped an update on my Telegram community, so if you're there, then you got early access, and it's free to join, by the way. Link is down in the description. If you want to stay tuned for that video, subscribe, keep your notification bell on. If you're looking for a place to be trading Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, the links are down in the description to sign up and begin trading. With that said, thank you all for watching. Take care, and I'll see you all tonight. Bye-bye, guys.